Hey, Mrs. Wilson, this is Kathy Ouellette. I want to explain the game I chose from the Florida Center for Reading Research website. I teach 8th grade, so I chose from the 4th to 5th grade activity section. In particular, I went to the advanced phonics, the morpheme structure activities, and chose one called If the Clue Fits. I like this for a couple of reasons. One, it's a game-based activity that would require at minimum 2 students playing. So there's a little competition and cooperation. So they're not alone, there's a partner, and that, I think that makes it fun. And 2, they're required to find words based on a set of clues that they're going to choose from. And so it requires them to be a detective. And so who doesn't like to kind of think of themselves as Nancy Drew or Sherlock Holmes or something along those lines to try to figure out and discover the answer to the clues. The second thing I like is that it used a variety of strategies to ask students to identify those words. Affixes, base words, root words, syllables, open syllables, closed syllables, are controlled syllables. So there were a lot of terminology in the clues that really, I think, help students really key in on the different parts of a word that they're looking at and how in their heads to start breaking it down and think about it. It was really eye-opening for me even to look up some of the terms and break it down for myself. What's an affix? What does it encompass? You know, it's not just prefixes and suffixes. There's infixes and superfixes and stuff probably not as necessary. But recognizing that before we even begin the game, it would be probably good to start with some explicit instruction and help students think about those terms. Do they know what an affix is? Do they know what a compound word is? You know, kind of getting a good sense of their prior knowledge before we even begin to help them engage. And so that when we do begin, you can kind of see, do they really understand it? And are they able to apply that knowledge? And if we've discussed it for the first time today, is it bearing fruit in terms of the accuracy of the words they identified or the speed with which they identify it, and would give us that common language to discuss it. So the gist of the game is there's 2 game pieces. So it's kind of in this kind of a fashion, and each of the words, each student gets 2 different sets. No words are repeated. And then we have a set of clues on cards. And so kind of like a card game. We put them face down and they each pull from it, and the clue is read, and then the student whose turn it is looks for that word. And if it's not on their card and the other person can find it, then we put the markers accordingly. And so, for instance, one of the clues has 2 vowel pair syllables. One syllable has a long A sound and is a compound word. So they search and look, and in this particular case, it's railroad. And so, again, you have something now to discuss and see, could they find it? How fast could they find it? If we decided to talk about it and break it down, would they understand what we meant by a vowel pair? Can we help them really think through when we go, what is a long A sound? Where was that in the word? So really being able to validate in their knowledge and sort of assess their knowledge. Another clue, for instance, what has 3 syllables, 2 syllables are closed, and the root word is rupt. And again, so just for me, going back and having to recognize that what's a closed syllable? It's a long time. Things are so intuitive now and instinct. You just naturally read and kind of, you're not breaking these words down. What is it for someone who is struggling with reading? How do we help them think about syllables, and what does it mean to be a closed syllable with having that vowel encased on either side by a consonant, and how that alters how you pronounce or how you think about, you might spell it out. So really valuable. In this case, the word was disruptive. One more example, what has 4 syllables, 2 syllables are controlled and is a compound word. Again, you're helping them break it down and sound it out and are controlled. So what does that do in terms of how they would spell it, how they would say it? This word is supermarkets. Supermarkets. So I just think this is just a great strategy with struggling students to really help them think about the words they're looking at, helping them really decode and identify and learn to read more effectively. So I'm excited to try this out, hopefully in the next week or two, even with a couple of students that I know would benefit, and get a good sense of how they look at words, and do they know this kind of strategy and terminology that can make them a better reader. So I appreciate the exercise. I appreciate recognizing that I have a lot to learn about teaching reading more effectively. But this is a great start, and that's an excellent website with a lot of different ideas. And I think as I'm teaching and I realize the wide variance in the reading levels in my 8th grade students, that the struggling ones sometimes, these new kinds of activities that you can try out can really make a difference. So thank you for this.